Before the Echo is brought to you by X's Outdoor Gear, ASIO Gear, and Stealth Outdoors. What's up, everybody?
Welcome
back to the show.
Round two.
It's more evening time here than afternoon. But you're an hour earlier.
Yeah, I still got about another, hour of daylight left.
Before you say it's evening.
Yeah, before it's nighttime.
If you notice, look at how professional Patrick looks over there.
I've got my mic thanks to Josh.
Hooked him
Looking
up.
Cool.
Man.
I know. Got goodies.
That's why we're slightly late. We were trying to figure the mic out.
Yeah.
Man, been driving around. I went for a ride at like 5 o'clock. I didn't see a single turkey out and about this evening.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't. I drove around my little loop today in where I cut grass, and usually I see turkeys. I didn't see any today. They're hiding. I got to work so much this week and try to get caught up. I'm like chomping at the bits to go back to Missouri.
Yeah. How was Missouri? You were there over the weekend.
It was great. I mean, just being there. I was telling Brandy when I got home, I was like, man, I just want to go back and live in my camper.
Do you like Missouri that much?
Yeah, man, it's awesome.
Really?
Have you ever been there?
I mean, I've been there.
It might be something. It might kind of remind you of home, but the Ozarks are absolutely gorgeous, man. And it just everything is real green where we were at. You know, all the fields are really green and plush, and it's just the time of year, man. It was beautiful. The weather was perfect. It might have been a little cold where you were at, because y'all looked cold when I talked to you earlier. You and Huck, when y'all were outside when we poloed each other.
Yeah,
but it got down in like the 40s at night, so we didn't have to have an air conditioner or anything. I just turned the vent fan on and had a window open for some circulation. And man, once I got rid of that cold I had, man, I slept like a baby Friday and Saturday night. It was nice.
Yeah, it wasn't. We took our camper out for the first time, our cargo camper, and it was like perfect camping weather. The only thing, it was a little bit cold in the mornings. When you wake up, it'd be like 40 degrees.
Yeah,
which for me not, but when you got a 6-month-old, it's kind of cold.
How did it stay pretty warm in the camper, or did y'all like just click it on and knock the chill out in the morning?
No, we got a AC/heater combo electric heater. So we just ran that as a thermostat on it. So we put that at like 68 or something like that.
Yeah.
And then it would kick on a couple times every night. But
yeah,
it's just with the baby, you don't want to get real cold because he'll wake up and cry and stuff.
No, it was, we turned the diesel heater on like in the morning, and then I had to knock the chill out one night. She got a little cold, and I knocked the chill out right before we went to bed. But then, once you get in those covers and stuff, you're good to go. And it was, man.
Yeah.
I want to go back.
Yeah, I know.
I'm ready.
We're going to take our camper or our trailer down to Florida here in a few weeks to see Maddie's grandma. So,
yeah. If y'all need to stop by on well, I guess it's out of the way for you.
It'd be way out of the way.
Yeah.
We were originally going to come down to your house and turkey hunt and then buzz down there, but it really wasn't any closer per se, because you got to drive west to get to your house.
Yeah. It's kind of a little out of the way.
Yeah.
But have you ever hunted in Missouri?
No.
Man, it's cool, man. I was down there. I didn't see a lot of deer. The deer signs there, but like, man, there's some big tracks. I found some big tracks in this riverbed where they, where the deer were coming down. It found a lot of good trails that look like they'd be really good, like early bow season, just because it's, they got those big high ridges, and there's this field that I was by that's on the forest, and then it goes back, and it's just this nice little grassy area that looks like it'd be perfect if it was hot outside for them to just lay in and be cool and all that. And then, of course, the rut, that another spot that I like to hunt last year, I found a lot of good buck sign in there. So, but I think I'm going to go to northern Missouri, where there's probably a little bit better chance of getting some bigger deer if I go next year up there somewhere.
Ted Bright's from Missouri. He always kills a bunch of big deer out there. I just haven't, I got to get out there sometime. I went scouting one year thinking I was going to go, and ended up not going. One of those things where something else popped up or whatever it was. And then I didn't end up going. So I haven't been back.
Yeah, it's pretty, man. I kept looking for morels, but I couldn't find any.
Yeah.
Man, I was on the hunt for those, but I probably would have been excited about that as killing a turkey because I've been looking for one of the last 2 times I've been up there and never been able to
Yeah.
find one. It's a little late, I think.
When we did that run on last Saturday, I found 2 on the trail running. So if we would have stopped and like looked for them, probably found a bunch of them. But
Yeah.
we didn't have any way of
Isn't
carrying
it,
them.
isn't it getting kind of late?
No, you can still find them.
Okay. I didn't know if it's like a further south, because it's a little bit lower than you in elevation or in a latitude.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. No, it's
you
not
know,
too late yet.
okay.
Nope, nope.
Where do you find them? Like by rocks and trees or?
Yeah, no, not. It's usually like a lot of people say like a elm tree is a really popular spot for them, especially
Okay.
if it's dead and like decaying or something like that.
Uh-huh.
It's a real popular spot for them.
Okay.
And then I think ash too, which there's not a lot of ash anymore around, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of dead ash. So I'm not an expert, but if Matt's on tonight, Mushroom Matt's on, he can give you a summary of it in the comments and we can talk about it.
Yeah, I'd like to know, man, because we were looking hard. I told my wife, I was like, it'd be fun. We can look for morels in the afternoons, because you can only hunt turkeys till 1 up there.
Okay.
I think it's 1. It's either 12 or 1. If it's 1, then I guess I was wrong, breaking the law. But I think it's pretty 99% sure it's 1 o'clock.
Are you pronouncing it wrong, or is that what you guys call them down there? Morels?
Is it morel or morel?
Morel.
Okay, morel. I don't know.
I was like, what's he talking about?
Southerners, man. Dadgum Southerners. We don't have them down here. So
I know.
like you get to them, like if you go around the Tennessee River and that, because it's real kind of like rocky, Of course, in the Appalachia you do, but
yeah,
here we don't have a lot. You kind of got to go to Kentucky. They're in Kentucky a good bit, and they're probably in like northwestern, like Clarksville, Tennessee, and stuff like that.
Yeah,
but we just don't have them. So I never even heard of one until like 3 years ago, and I've been turkey hunting for 30 years. And I was like, because Facebook, Instagram, everybody's like, oh, look at these.
Got a turkey in a bag of morels.
Yeah, morels.
Morels.
like the target, morel target.
I'm like, boy, he's getting into it quick about these morels tonight.
Yeah, you better get your morels and your moral mushrooms. Your moral mushrooms give you morals.
I caught on quick though. I figured out what you're talking about. That's funny.
It was that morel.
Morel.
Yeah, I've called it morel before, but I don't know why I was just calling.
Oh, that's all right. I just was making fun of you.
I got the Bible in my hand, so it's got me calling it morals.
Yeah. Oh, hey, let's talk about our Bibles. I think that'd be an interesting thing.
Yeah.
What Bible do you read?
Okay, so I've got the so I had a friend that I met. I was nerdy a long time ago and played World of Warcraft in my 20s, and I met a guy on there.
I wouldn't have said that if I were you.
That's all right. I'm
just kidding.
I'm nerdy. It was in a period of time when I was down in I was living in New Orleans, and I started playing it, and of course, like, got addicted to it. I mean, you should have just given me a diaper and a pizza, and I would have never moved for days. It was that bad for a little bit.
Dude, people get addicted to them things.
Dude, that's what's wrong with this world. But
my sister plays. Sorry to interrupt you.
No,
what's my sister's play? Her and her boyfriend play Dungeons and Dragons or something.
Yeah,
and they love it. Like after, I guess, they go to church on Sunday morning, and then they play the rest of the day with like a group of friends. And she's like, "Yeah, it's really fun." And she's trying to explain it to me, and I'm like,
it is fun, but it's like it's very addictive, and you won't. I mean, literally, you'll give up. People give up their life for it, and man, I could see myself doing that, and I just had to cut it off and didn't do it. But so that story, I met a guy on there named John Gutierrez, and he played a little character, and you could talk like we're talking right now on there with a headset and kind of play the game, and you just got to be buddies with these guys because you're playing every day, and you just talk about life. And he was going through divorce and stuff. Well, like 2 years later, when I wasn't playing the game, we still kept in contact. He's an anesthesiologist, or nurse anesthetist. He's from out in New Mexico. And it's weird how you meet these people and they have an impact on your life. But he he actually sent me this Bible when I was going through a hard time. And I'll never forget that he asked for my address, and I gave it to him. And he was like, I just want to send you something, right? He knew I was struggling at the time. I was kind of having some financial issues. I was young and had a house and was way in over my head with it. Financial crisis kind of stuff, 2008. And he sent me this Bible, and he sent me $300 and a Bible. And we've never met face to face. We've talked on the phone several times. And he said, look, man, I sent you a Bible. I think he wrote it in here, but he also sent me a letter. I'll never forget. He said, here's $300. Go buy yourself some toilet paper or something. $300. I hope you're doing okay. And then
Hey, that came in handy in the next crisis we had in the U.S.
yeah, really. And then he sent me this study Bible, and he just had the same thing I tell people. He says, I was not sure if you had a study Bible or not, so I thought I would get you one. If you already have one, well, now you have two. For me, it's very helpful to read a few verses, then read the translations. Hope it helps in growing with Christ. Merry Christmas, John.
Oh,
And
nice.
it's just weird how God puts people like that in your life. And that day I'd gotten really emotional because I was having some bad luck. And another guy, Charlie, his name's Charlie Ivy, and I were talking. I used to lay tile at the and he told me a story about his brother and how his brother had bad luck, gotten addicted to painkillers like a lot of people did in the early 2000s, lost his wife, his house, and just talking about how how God will bring you to your knees and to bring you to him, and how he had changed his life and he got his kids back. And I don't know, it's just like an emotional thing. Went home, had the Bible that same day, had a letter from him, and it was just like, God talked to me. And that was my testimony of when I really felt Christ for the first time in my life.
That's cool.
Yeah. So just to share that kind of.
My story's not that cool, but anyway, what is it like? Is it a NIV?
So it is a NIV. It is the Life Application Study Bible, New Living Translation. So it's an NLT, and you know how you and I were talking about some of the cool stuff with yours this morning. It's got that too, like the historical stuff. Kind of. I don't think it goes into what the papyrus and stuff like what yours was talking about, but it talks about date written between 85 and 90 when John was old. For the book we're talking about tonight. So
yeah. I've always read the NIV. This is a King James version I've been reading recently. I mean, people go back and forth and argue about versions and whatnot. I think as long as you're reading, I mean, I don't think you're gonna, people don't like the King James version for certain reasons. Some people don't like the NIV, all that stuff for certain reasons. Like it's probably humans complaining about things we shouldn't be complaining about too much.
Yeah.
Typically the King James version is a little harder to understand. It's kind of in older English, if you want to say that. I don't like reading the King James versions as well as I do the NIV, but I have found myself with the King James version going through it. Like I find myself paying more attention to it because I have to, because I don't understand it,
Yeah.
So that's, I guess, if you're someone like me, like, because I have ADD a little bit and I like my mind wanders a lot. Like with the King James version, I have to like pay attention, or as if it's like the NIV or the LIV. A lot of times I'll just read it and then be like, "Well, what the heck did I read?" Whereas with the King James, you have to read it. So right. I don't know if I'd recommend someone like the first time getting a Bible to read it. I don't know if I'd read the King James version because it is like confusing.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm not smart, so maybe it's not confusing to some people, but the English in it is kind of broken up.
It's hard to read, and I think it discourages a lot of people. I think you can read it how we talk.
Yeah,
it makes sense. And like that pastor that I got my saying from, that 6 minutes a day, he said God doesn't care what you're reading, what Bible you're reading or how long you're reading. He's just glad you're connecting with him and reading. So
yeah,
it really does. I think some people think that your old heads like grandma and grandpa, they probably think the King James is the Bible and that these are wrong translations and that they're somehow not true, but everything's translated from the original text. So it really doesn't matter. It's still the same thing. It's just translated to our current language.
Yeah, and you can think whatever you want. Like you can think the NIV is better or King James is better, but like don't judge someone because they're reading like that's I guess what I'm getting at. If you can't read the King James version and you don't like it or it's confusing to you, try a different version that maybe you'll understand it better.
I like the language in the King James better because it's just cool. I like the shalls and the way that the words sound when you're saying them. I think it's really it kind of makes it seem more real than I guess when you're just reading it, but it's kind of easier to understand.
Here, I'll just read it. I'll read the first chapter in 1 John, which is what we're going to talk about a little bit tonight. But like this is an example of a King James version verse that's a little bit confusing to read. It's literally that which was from the beginning, which we have heard, which we have seen with our own eyes, which we have looked upon, and our hands and have handled of the world of life. It's like that's a super confusing sentence, right? Like you got to like sit there and think about what you're reading,
especially as someone who's like, "Hey, I'm not a Christian, but I'm gonna try this thing out and see
Yeah,
what I get from it.
you would read
Oh,
that and be like, what?
what? I
Yeah.
don't I forget it. I'm gonna go back to watching TV. I mean, a lot of people would probably. So,
Um,
redeem something. I hope I'm saying that right. I'm in I live close to Memphis. I'm just outside of Memphis in Oakland. He asked a question where I was, how far from Nashville? About 3 hours.
yeah. The King James version is definitely probably the most popular Bible, I would
Yeah,
imagine.
I would think so.
Yeah, whenever I was younger in the Lutheran schools and Lutheran church I went to, they always had us reading the NIV. I don't know if it was because it was easier to read or what the deal was, but that's the one we always had when I was a kid in the Lutheran
Right.
schools. But my mom grew up Baptist. She always had the King James version, I believe. I don't know. I don't think it. Like I said, I think we're people that complain about that stuff's probably a little bit being a little bit petty. But what did you say about? You said the King James version. Some people think that what translation was is corrupted by.
I've heard that the King James changed certain things in the King James Bible. I don't know if it's the one that we have now. I don't know if that's been fixed. Like I said, that's all things I've heard from
Right.
people. I don't have any pastors that I've talked. I've got a really close friend who's a youth pastor. I actually talked to him yesterday about something, that question somebody asked on one of your shorts you did. But I need to ask him and see what he says, or maybe someone that's really knowledgeable in the chat too can hear if they've ever heard that before too. I mean, I, I I think the gist of everything is pretty much the same. You know what I mean? You hear so much misinformation
Yeah.
about the Bible.
Yeah. So my Bible that I've been reading is the Henry Morris Study Bible. And the reason I like it is because there's a lot of scientific things in here. So like the whole Bible is in here, but there's a lot of context around every page of the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
So like, for example, these 2 pages right here, literally there's, this is the only part of the Bible right here, this little line right here. The rest of it's all context. So like, if you're ever reading through this Bible and you're like, I don't understand this. Well, you can go down like in the footnotes, they'll have a chapter and a verse, and then he'll give an explanation of what it actually means in like very plain English. And then also at the beginning of each chapter, he gives a very long introduction of the book and like the author, some of the facts that why people believe that this book was written, when it was written, who wrote it, and some of like just some cool things, like some scientific you can read about it.
Yeah, it's kind of. Does it look like this, Josh? I don't know if you can. Let me see. If you can see, like this is the beginning of First John.
Yeah, it's something like that.
You see how it says, and then it's got kind of like the cliff notes over here on this side that kind of say like what it vital statistics and stuff. That's what I like that, because it can kind of, if you ever get questioned on something, you can go back and read what it says, and somebody's interpreted it for you and put it on the paper.
Yeah. Yep. Let's talk about that comment we got on that short that you were just referring to a second ago. You're going to have to refresh me on what it was.
It was something that I said. I said that God, that Jesus, I was talking about Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, where he prayed to God, if there's another way, please take this burden, please, if there's another way, 3 times. But he also said, as my friend reminded me yesterday, but your will be done. So he was still going to do God's will, but he asked. And I said that he did not want to go through what he went through. And the death and everything, and what happened to him, how horrible it was. And he tried to get God to go another way around it, because he was all God and all human. So that was probably the human part of him. And someone that watched the short made a mention that he didn't fear death, he feared separation from God, which you and I kind of discussed. I feel death is separation for God for us, because through Jesus Christ we have eternal life. But what my friend said is he would never fear separation from God, because he was God. So, that kind of contradicts that. So, I see what he was saying, but he probably didn't fear anything. I don't see Jesus fearing anything, but maybe he didn't want to have to go through it if he did, because he loved his friends, that he was with. He loved humanity, and he probably wanted to do more good work on the earth. If I was to guess what was on his mind for what he is, and I mean, that's a big guess. So, I would just say, if I was in Jesus's shoes and I knew that I was going to have to go through that, and it was God's will, I would do it gladly for God. But at the same time, I would probably still ask, like, "Hey, man, is there another way? I can do a lot of other good stuff if I can
Yeah.
just, can we skip the this brutal part and I can try to do some other good?" But he still ultimately was going to do what he came here to do.
Right. And that's I mean, shorts, uh, shorts get a lot of new people coming to your channel and seeing things, but it's also like it's a very small portion of the very large conversation we had. Like it's a
Yeah,
40-second clip of a hour and a half podcast,
yeah.
And I think maybe it was probably my fault. It got taken out of context a little bit. I think we were talking about um and this is summarizing it, but like we were talking about Jesus was a human, and we forget that. Like we think he was like some uh extraordinary, like had some weird magical thing about him, which he did, but he also had like human emotions because he was human,
Right.
and he lived perfect despite of those
Yep.
emotions to set an example for us on earth. And that's what we were getting at, was like just to the point that he probably felt some type of a human way during that. But
Oh yeah.
what we were talking about is, your thoughts versus your actions kind of thing. What matters kind of in
Right.
sin. Um, so that got taken out of context a little bit. Like I felt like, not that you were attacked by any means, but like our point wasn't to say Jesus
Yeah.
got separated from God,
And,
or
he
he.
might have he had a point too. I see what he says because
Yeah,
Jesus didn't fear death, and if he took it that way, because that it sounded like I was saying that. I didn't say that he feared anything because he doesn't fear anything, right? But at the same time, I'm sure he felt those emotions because he was human, even though he knew who he was. You know what I mean? Who are
yeah.
we to say? I'm speculating here because
Who knows? We
I'm
can't
trying
really.
to think. I'm trying to really. I mean,
I can't
if
imagine
even
him like really looking forward to that process.
no, no, and to me, it makes him even greater, if he could be even greater than what he is, even greater, or it gives you more of an appreciation for what he did for us based on the fact that he had some of the emotions and feelings that you and I would
Yeah.
have faced
Yep.
with the same situation, but yet he still did God's will.
Yep. He also, I mean, he must have had some, I don't know if it's worry or anxiety or whatever you call it, but like he brought the disciples in the garden with him to pray about it, you
Yeah.
know?
Yep.
Um, so anyway, that was good. It was a good conversation in the comments though, of that short that go back and forth. Cause
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's people that are going to watch this that are way, way smarter than us on this stuff.
Well, and it's a
We're
Bible
going to make
study. We're
mistakes.
we're we're talking about the Bible
Yeah.
with everyone that wants to join, and wherever that God takes us with this, He takes us, and we're just talking about the Bible. So, God's celebrating, and maybe someone on here is going through something, and they see this, and they stop for just a second, and they hear something encouraging that makes them go to their Bible, and it fixes their life or changes their ways, the
Yep.
way it has for me or for you, and that's what really, I mean, that's a win. So,
Yep.
get mad or not. At least you feel something when we talk about Jesus, I
Yeah.
guess. I
Right.
don't know.
Right.
Sounded good when I said
Uh,
that.
but before we get started on First John, guys, uh, go down in the description sometime and check out the sponsors of the show. I don't got very many of them. There's just a few of them down there, but they YouTube does not pay that well, and those sponsors really help us make this show happen. So ASIO gears down there, Stealth Outdoors, and Exodus Outdoor Gear. So go check those guys out. Also, Patrick's channel is in the description too.
Yeah, it's small. I'm just trying to get started. So,
Yeah,
it is what it is. I'm gonna put out some turkey content next year, and probably some deer content this year. I put out some last year, but it's pretty hard what Josh does, and especially if you work another job. So
sure.
we'll see where it takes us. I'm actually more excited about doing this than I am the hunting channel, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And I love to hunt, so
Oh
if that
yeah.
tells you something.
Yeah. All right. Last week I kind of picked the topic to talk about. We talked about Ezekiel 37, but this week Patrick was going to want to talk about First John, and I got to this weekend. I had some downtime sitting at the camp, and I actually read all of First John, and then kind of did some studying on it. So, um, it's a really good book to read if you are struggling with like false idols in life, and you may not even realize you're struggling with false idols. Like, if you're constantly worried about money, or if you love something so much that it's taken over your life, whether that be deer hunting or your RV or your whatever the case may be. So I got a lot out of First John. It's a really short chapter 2.
Yeah, those last books in the Bible, like 1 John, 2 John, 3 John.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple more in there. They're really short, but they're really good.
Oh yeah,
Like that. Like there's a lot in them, especially as short as they are.
yeah, yeah. And to give you guys, like, John has written a lot of chapters in the Bible. Actually, he wrote Revelations. It's they're thought to wrote Revelations in First, Second, Third John, and then also John in the first part of the New Testament there. So he's if you like one of his books, all the other ones are written by the same author apparently.
Yeah, he was when he on the Isle of Patmos when he wrote Revelations.
I believe so.
I
Yeah.
think Island of Patmos. That's
Yeah.
when he got banished there. I think they banished him there or something like that.
Yeah, and they were
Very old.
Yeah, and he was it was all written after AD apparently. So after all the downfall of after Christ, and John was known to live longer than all the other apostles. He lived a lot longer than everybody else, which Jesus told him he would, I guess.
I think he was Jesus's like favorite. If he had one, I want to say he was his like main one.
Yeah,
I think I've read that he loved John the most out of the. If that, I mean, I could
like
be
they were
wrong.
closer.
They were pretty close. Him and John were very, very close.
Yeah,
And there's a lot about Peter. I like Peter because he's roguish, man. Peter's a wild dude, but I like Peter a lot when you read about him and how he came to Christ and his denial and then his coming back and just where he went, his journey. He's a good one too.
yeah.
You have several. You have a lot of them, but yeah, you have John. I think you have. Is it Big James and Little James or Big John and Little John? Can't remember. There's two
James
Johns.
and John were brothers.
Yeah, and then there was another though. Wasn't there another James? I know there's two Judases.
John
There's
the
Judas.
Baptism. John the
Yeah,
Baptist.
not that John. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know. I had to read again. I know there.
Yeah, I don't know. You may be right. I don't know. I mean, I know a little bit about all that stuff, but off the top of my head, I can't remember.
Yeah, I know there's 12 of them, and one of them ain't alive.
Right.
Before the crucifixion.
Yeah, yeah. John, this is all written too, apparently after all the other 11 apostles had passed.
Yeah.
So it was written for like a different audience, is what they were kind of summarizing in the descriptions. Like, this was written for Christians that were straying from Jesus.
Yeah. It was to reassure. What I have here, it might be the same. It's just to reassure Christians in their faith and to counter false teachings.
Yep.
There's a lot of that.
Yeah, at the time when John was preaching a lot, there was a lot of that going on, which there still is today, and that's what the Bible these were written about. And specifically, First John was written about false idols, which is something that was
you see it a lot in the church today too, with the music and the lights and the smoke and the flying preachers and the pop culture dress that they wear to attract, I mean, you see a lot of that, and the biblical teachings they're lacking. It's more about the show, and I think it attracts people, but it's written about, I think, in Revelations about the lukewarm church too. So, I mean, I think we're in those times, most definitely.
What do you think about some of that stuff, Patrick? Like some of the fanciness of churches and some of the...
I don't like it. I love good music, and you should worship, do 3 good music songs, but you got to really pay attention, especially to new Christians, on what you're listening to, because I think a lot of people try to sugarcoat the Bible, and they don't teach it the way it's meant, and they try to make it fit our life instead of make our life fit the Bible, and I don't like it. I don't like the hip hop, pop culture, preacher that jumps up there and wants to be a star. I want a guy who loves Jesus and wants to tell you about him and tell you what he knows about the Bible. Someone you can look to as a teacher. That's why I follow the guy that I told you about that's helped me so much in my walk with Christ. He's on YouTube. He's got his own church, but he's helped me with my walk, and it's because his teachings are biblical teachings. And I mean, there's just none of that. He doesn't use any of that worldly metaphors to deliver scripture, I guess. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but you know how I've noticed a lot of these preachers nowadays, they come at you with these, oh, say your wife's car's broke down and, this is happening. And then, and they bring in these things, these to kind of relate it to you. And those are some of the things that I don't, I don't, I don't know if that's good or bad. Maybe it's neutral. I don't know, but I do notice a lot of that trying to polish the Bible when it really just needs to be spoken as word as it is. And that's in my opinion,
Yeah. No, I would tend to agree with you. And that's coming from a Lutheran though, which is Lutherans are very traditional people.
I think there's good in traditional,
Yeah. I get their I get their thinking behind it, trying to get more people involved in church. But yeah, I think sometimes it goes a little bit too far, where it's like, look at me, look how cool this is. I'm wearing all kinds of fancy jewelry, and
Yep.
that's
And
kind
they're
of
out there. There's a lot of them, man. Those mega churches are crazy, man. I mean, and
insane.
I
Huh?
think a lot of churches strive for that because they think that's success or, and I mean, God blesses bad people too, man. I mean, and he gives them the rope to hang themselves sometimes,
Yeah.
and even preachers. And so you just got to be wary and keep your eyes open and listen to words. I think a lot of the times I feel like men are a little bit more skeptical of that kind of stuff than women. I think women get lured in a little bit more so by and kids and teenagers and young people get lured in more with the glamour and the music and the lights and the stuff. And I just think you really need to read the Bible first and not listen to a pastor. Uh, you know,
No, that's a good point. Like so many people, I mean, I would hate to say, and maybe I'm wrong on this, but I bet 80 or 90% of Christians just go to church on Sundays and never touch their Bible throughout the week, and they just
Yep.
rely on another human to give them the information.
Yeah, we're lazy by nature with stuff like that, and then the Bible's so big, and that's the thing with me. Like, so I read the whole New Testament last year in about 6 months, 7 months, and I never read it. I'd read parts of it. I did Genesis, Exodus. I'd read Psalms, a couple other chapters, but I never even read I never read the gospel. And this pastor said on TV, he's like, if you read your Bible 6 minutes a day, you can read the whole Bible. If you go to the gym 30 minutes a day, you'll lose weight. If you do this, it's just repetition and doing these things that seem big, insurmountable tasks and chipping away at them. And before you know it, you got the whole Bible read in 2 years. And when he said that, it was kind of like an aha moment. I went, hey, I want to try that. And man, I started it and like, man, 6 months down, maybe not even that long, dude, I was done with the New Testament and had a
Yeah,
good grasp of what it said too. Because I
yeah,
haven't really been back to it. And I still feel like I can remember and
yeah.
take in a lot of what I read.
You do pretty well whenever I ask questions about things. Speaking of like people not preaching about certain things, I've been just going down YouTube rabbit holes lately. Have you ever read Genesis chapter 6?
Yeah, I have. And I watched that episode you're fixing to talk
Did you?
about. It's wild.
Yeah,
It's wild. And if you believe the Bible's the truth and you interpret that the way that it 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 says,
yeah.
I mean, there's some stuff in there that makes you go, huh, what's
Maybe
that
we'll
about?
we'll talk about that on a podcast and
Yeah,
kind
I
of
think
say
that's
that.
a long one to get into and it's kind of wild.
Yeah,
We need to build our own.
if you're into aliens and some weird stuff, man.
Yeah, which we call them aliens, they called them
Yeah,
angels back then, and they might be one and the same. What we think
yeah,
or what we call aliens might be
yeah, or just some
angels.
real wicked stuff going on
Yeah,
in
real
Genesis.
crazy, and it's true. It's in the Bible. If you believe the Bible, it's 100% true and accurate. So I'm not making it up. You're not making it up. Everybody just read Genesis 6 and and
Maybe we'll talk
decide
about
for
it next
yourself.
week.
Yeah, I like to because that was interesting.
Yeah, I
That was
want to read it and
interesting.
study about it a little bit. So,
Yeah.
um, but it's a chapter that doesn't get preached about very much. Put it that
Mm,
way.
yeah, what's the name of his series? Unexplained Accounts in the Bible.
Yeah, in the Bible or something like that. It's on
Yeah,
3 or
things that
7.
preachers don't really talk about
Yeah,
because it kind of makes people. It could make you think, huh? And it's still, my thing is, Brandy and I talked about it because I've watched some stuff on YouTube about these emerald tablets, which they say predate the Bible, but it's basically kind of a similar book to the Bible, exactly. And, it doesn't change my faith because Jesus Christ existed. He was the truth, and what he says is reliable. So, and I told her, I said, it doesn't change. I think we all wonder who and what God is. You know what I mean? Like, who is he? What is he? We know he's a personal being that loves us and cares about us and creator of the world, but who is he? And so I don't think it's wrong to wonder and question, like, who is God? We know who Jesus is, and Jesus told us who God is in certain, ways that he told us that. But I don't think it's wrong to read these things and go, God, who is our creator?
Yeah.
We don't know. I'd like to know who I know him because I read his word. But I still want to, like, what does he look like? Who is he? Does he look like something? Is he something? What is it? We don't know. So,
Yeah.
like, that Genesis
We,
6 explains, makes you kind of, it shouldn't make you doubt Jesus. It should just make you kind of go, there is a lot of questions I have about, like, where all this comes from still,
yeah. And like, we hit on this a little bit last week, but it may just be that we can't even fathom what he is, like we can't understand it.
No, no.
Um, I'm pretty sure that is what the case is, but
Yeah, he's greater than us. That's for sure. Supernatural.
yeah, yeah. All right, Patrick.
You want me to get into it?
Yeah, get into First John before we've already been on here for 40 minutes almost. So
Wow.
I know, dude.
All right, so let me get into it here. It was my favorite verse in the Bible. It's about loving the world. Do not love the world. Do not love this world, nor the things it offers you. For when you love the world, you do not have the love of the Father in you. For the world offers only cravings for physical pleasure and cravings for everything we see, and pride in our achievements and possessions. These are not from the Father, but are from this world. And this world is fading away along with everything that people crave. But anyone who does what pleases God will live forever. Now, if you would, because I like the King James translation, would you read the King James translation? Because I like the way it's
What verses was that, Patrick?
it's 15 through 17.
On First John
Chapter
2.
2. Yeah, chapter 2, 15 through 17.
Yeah, and King James is a little bit different.
It's
Too.
written a little different, and I like the way it's written.
It's yeah. So
It seems
I'll
a
give
little
it
more
a go here.
powerful when you say it. So if you would just read that,
Yep. Hopefully I don't screw it up, make it less powerful.
you'll be good.
Yeah. So this is First John 2, 15 through 17, like Patrick said. Love of the world, love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. If any man loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh and the lust of the eyes and the pride of life is not for the Father, but is of the world. And the world passeth away, and the lust thereof. But he that doeth the will of God abides forever.
Yep. I like the way that sounds better. It's
Yeah.
just a little bit more.
Yeah, you can, and that's a good example of the difference in King James and.
They say the same thing, but man, that just sounds to me. It sounds so much more powerful from the King James.
Well,
version.
some of the language is more like lust, and some of that wording is much more powerful.
Yeah, lust of the eyes, pride of life.
And I think that's
lust of
probably
the
where
flesh.
people like the King James version because they maybe feel like the NIV or whatever, maybe that's watered down a little more. So,
I think it is because when you say words like lust and flesh and pride of life, like those things, like have a visceral reaction within you, like where the way this is written is just kind of like it's kind of washed over with,
Yeah.
Still means the same thing, but it's kind of washed out.
Yeah. And I think the reason that's more powerful is because those words hurt, like, because they're true,
Yeah. And lust, I mean, think about lust. I mean, it's one of the 7 deadly sins, right? So when you say it out loud, you're like, oh, did I say that? Like, it's kind of like one of those words, like, did I say lust? Or, flesh, that too, I mean, that's like, we all know what the flesh, how hard it is to fight flesh, on this earth. So,
yeah, the lust part in our culture now is just rampant.
mm-hmm.
I mean, everything is sexualized. Everything is, just out there. It's probably harder now than ever to keep that commandment.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and with even as a Christian, it's hard. It's something I've struggled with. Because everything you look at on Facebook or Instagram, I mean, these girls today are just half naked on everything you look at. And then if you look at if one comes up, then it's like the algorithm throws 20,000 others up, and then you're stuck in this whirlwind. And it's like, man, it's a fight because it's biological. We're men. We like pretty women, and we like
Yeah.
hunting, or you can lust for hunting, and I mean all that stuff. I guess it's not lust, but you can
Yeah.
value that more than you do biblical stuff. So it's just reading verses like this kind of helps you stay grounded, and knowing verses like this. For me, this verse here helps me when I remember it and think about it, or when I'm in a situation where I'm feeling convicted. It helps me to go, oh, it's not about this world, man. Don't worry about money. Don't worry about the next best thing. Don't worry about this. Just, do what God tells you to do. He's going to bless you. He says it. He's going to bless you. He's going to take care of you. Just trust in him.
Yeah. It's a really good passage that I think everybody can take something away from it. Cause I mean, this literally happens every single day in your life. You
Mhm.
struggle with this. I guarantee it. We all do.
Yeah.
So that's
And
a
people
comforting
don't
thing.
have the same values as they used to have too when I was growing up, and that was, I mean, I'm 44, so that was in the 90s. And even then, like, man, these girls nowadays, these kids, I have kids that work with me because I do landscaping. So I've got, these 18, 19-year-old guys. And man, the way their minds work compared to the way mine worked, and the way these kids and what's normalized to them, I'm like, how are they ever I mean, how do you fight that when they're surrounded and they're in this tech generation where everything's at a click of a button? You can sin at the click of a button. You can open your phone and there's sin right there in
Yeah.
front of you.
Oh yeah.
Like, how do you get away from that? And it's challenge. It's challenge if you're older, and then God, if that's all you've known, man, they got the work cut out for them.
I mean, and maybe it's just me, but like, uh, or my generation, or when I was going through school, like you just if you go to like a county fair or something now, and you just look what like these little girls wear around now, it's just like, what in the world is going on?
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, and I'm not talking about that in a sexual way. I'm talking about it as like a dad. I'd be like, I
yeah,
would be ashamed.
yeah,
There's no
yeah.
way.
Yeah, this Titus, we were riding. He's my worker with me, great kid, and it's some girl that he's friends with had a picture of him. She was, she was dressed appropriately, but man, she looked like she was. He said, "How old do you think she is?" And I said, "40s." He said, "She's 16." I was like, "Are you serious?" I was like, "She looks like she's in her 40s." He's like, "No, man." I was like, "How in the heck did her parents let her walk out with all that makeup on and stuff like that?"
Yeah.
And it's just, I think, and that's a challenge for men too, because hey, we're just as guilty and responsible for ourselves and what we look at as they are for how they dress. If we didn't like what we saw and promote it, they wouldn't dress the way, if we like more values and I guess modesty, outside of our marriage, from women, then I think that you know what I'm saying, we
Yeah. I mean, look at cultures like the Amish and what they
mhm.
wear. I mean, I'm not talking about going to that extreme, but it's like, um,
Is it extreme though? Maybe we're
I don't
extreme.
know.
Maybe
Right.
we're extreme and they're got it figured out.
Yeah. They're probably closer than we are a bit.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Um,
Definitely.
but they take away a lot of the sin naturally because of the things we're talking about, like your cell phone and all that.
Mhm.
Um, because you're right, you could just pick this thing up and be neck deep into all kinds of crazy things.
Yeah, it's evil. But heck, I got mine right by my side and you do you,
Oh
so
yeah.
what do you do now? Which yeah,
Yeah.
I think like, just throw it all away and, you know, live in
Get
a
a flip
van,
phone.
live in a van somewhere, man. Travel.
Patrick keeps going back to this van living or whatever.
Man, I'm telling you, they got it
We
figured
don't
out.
see Patrick next week. We know where he's at.
I'll do a show in that little camper I've got. I did it. I did it. I'm living in my camper now.
Oh
Praise
my god! On
God.
your flip phone, you get your flip phone out instead
Yeah.
of your
Yeah.
cell
I'll be
phone.
like, sorry, Josh, I don't have Wi-Fi. I'm at McDonald's.
Yeah, that's funny. Hey, I've done a show from McDonald's before.
Yeah.
You get some weird looks,
Yeah.
um, but I think the moral of that verse though is like, eh, you know, that stuff's in this sinful world. There was probably other sins that are just as bad going on back then as
Yeah.
they
Oh
are
yeah.
now, and you have to overcome them, right? You have to look to Jesus and not the world, regardless of who's walking around town or what's on your phone, right?
You just got to
That's
not
still
love
you're
the
still
world,
yeah,
you
you're
know?
still responsible for that. That's your own doing.
And you're not going to not love the world because this world's beautiful. God gave it for us to love. But if you love it more than you love where you're going, then, yeah, I'm going off grid. I hear you.
That's global.
Yeah. Who's president? I don't know. I've been in this valley for the last 10 years. What? It's who? Justin Timberlake's president of the United States?
Well, The Rock.
Yeah,
Is
The
his vice
Rock.
president.
Yeah, The Rock's the president. He
Oh,
laid the
man.
smackdown on. Yeah.
That's funny. You got anything else you want to talk about on that verse?
I mean, I think we covered a lot, but I think, for people out there that might be struggling with loving anything, and I mean, we talked about a little excessively maybe on lust and how we see that, because that's such a big thing now. But I mean, just money and what people will do for money,
Yeah.
and the whole thing with that and hunting. I mean, man, you and I were talking about social media and how it's affected the hunting industry and how everybody tries to live up. And we'll take it back to hunting because your show's a hunting show, right? And let's look at it like this. Everybody wants to have the biggest buck or be known as the best king, or not everybody, but a lot of hunters nowadays look and they think, man, I got to chase this. I got to chase this guy. I got to chase Dan. I got to chase Andy May. I got to chase, one of these guys that are doing it, year in and year out. And not appreciating the fact that God gave it to us. And another thing too is, man, going to church on Sundays, how many hunters sit up in a deer stand and say, man, this is my church, and don't step foot in church because it's an excuse. I did it. I used to say that all the time. And, I made a pact with God last year that on Sundays I would, unless I went on, if I went on a travel trip or something like, and I still watch church on my phone or whatever. And, I told you right now, my wife and I are between churches because we had some issues with our old church happen. And so we're watching the guy that I speak about, Cliff, and his church every Sunday. But man, on Sundays, I try to make sure, man, my butt's sitting in a chair watching him and trying to put God first on Sundays. And, you got Sunday afternoon to hunt, and, just give up that morning and put that first. And that kind of starts a process maybe of at least trying to live up to what, I feel like you should be doing,
Yeah, for sure. What do you think God thinks of hunting now?
I think he probably thinks we idolize it too much.
Yeah,
because I mean, he put them here for us to eat.
100%.
He didn't put them here for us to chase the big bucks, which, hey man, I'm still going to chase big bucks. If that's my sin, God forgive me. But, I think when you put that over family, friendships,
Him.
and God for sure, and of course Jesus and what he did for us, I think you're going to come up short. I mean, I don't kill many animals on Sundays. I can't think of any big animals I've killed or even good hunts I've had on a Sunday.
Yeah.
I just can't. And it's like every time I go on a Sunday, or used to go on a Sunday, and I feel like I need to be in church, I'd be like, man, I ain't gonna see nothing, and I never would. So
Yeah.
like, I don't know, coincidence. Maybe I didn't know what I was doing that Sunday, but I just think there's better places to spend your time on Sunday mornings than in a deer stand. Now I wouldn't have said that years ago.
Yeah. There's a lot of Christians that fall short during deer season. That is for sure.
Yeah.
And I can't think God really cares for that much,
No, I thought I want to find a little pocket Bible, which I know they make them.
Yeah, I got a bunch of them
To carry in a vest or in my pack, just to read when I'm in the woods. Because I don't think for me, other than when you're reading your Bible and you're by yourself and meditating, you can be closer to God than in His creation by yourself.
Just put this thing in your pocket.
Yeah, carry it in your pack. ASIO gear makes a really good pack.
17 pounds.
ASIO gear makes a really nice pack that you can put a
right.
in.
Right.
And you can put
15% off.
Yeah,
cover in stealth strips.
Yeah, cover in stealth strips.
Oh, that's funny.
But
I want to talk about, since we got a little time here, I want to talk. So I studied through First John this weekend. I probably spent 3 hours on First John, like going through the study notes and everything on it, doing some research on it. But that your verse is probably definitely the highlight of that chapter, but there was another one that I thought was real interesting. It's in chapter 3. It's 15 through 17 again, or I don't think, was that what we read? Yeah, 15 through 18, I guess earlier, but 15 through 17. It's about it's a little bit more about sin. And I wanted to hear what you thought about this.
Okay.
It's a pretty powerful exclamation God or John puts in here. It says, "Whosoever hateth his brother is a murderer, and ye know that no murderer hath eternal life abide in him." That's verse 15. It says 16, it says, "Hereby perceive we the love of God, because he laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our life for the brethren." I don't think 17, I don't think I need to read it. But what do you think about that? 15 saying, "Whosoever hateth his brother is a murderer."
I think it's true. Because you got to
Yeah, I
remember,
mean, yeah.
this is, so I was a police officer for 10 years.
Mhm.
Man, I saw a lot of bad things and different kind of people that were bad, and grew to hate those people at the time. Well, when I started reading the Bible seriously, year and a half ago, it all went away. And the reason it goes away, and when I started listening to Cliff too, because God created us in his image. We're all creating God's image. How can you hate your brother that's created in the image of God?
Yeah.
Even if they're sinning, even if they're doing bad, how can you can't hate them. You still have to love them. He commands us to love each other. So that right there fixed a lot of my hatred. Now, I still can be a hater sometimes on Facebook when people post stuff, and I'm like, and I have to I type and then I delete. It's that past
Yeah.
sin. I got to get it out. Got to get it out. But I'm way better now, and I don't do it because I think like, hey man, is that really the way that Jesus would want me to represent him being a Christian? And it's not. You know what I mean?
Right.
You can hate the sin, like they say, hate the sin, love the sinner,
Right.
and pray for them is what we're supposed to do. But that is a good verse.
Yeah.
Which verse is which book? Which chapter is that in?
Chapter 3, verse 15.
Okay.
I don't know what your translation translates into, but the King James uses the term murderer, which is another very harsh word, right?
Yeah.
But what
Yeah.
we were talking about last week is like talk, and why I put a note here by it was because last week we talked about how our culture views sins differently now, like whether it's homosexuality or abortion or this or that, and we hold those certain sins higher than cursing or whatever the case may be, taking the Lord's name in vain.
Right.
But like according to this, like if you hate someone or have hateful thoughts about them, like that's no better than murdering.
Well, I think that's a huge. Problem within the Christian church is we assign our own personal prejudice to
Yeah,
God's laws, and His laws are really clear. There's 10 of them,
yeah,
and then Jesus has the golden rule: treat others as you'd want to be treated. So if we treated people who were struggling with whatever demons they have and living a life that was maybe against what God preached, what God wanted them to leave, or they're struggling, let me say they're struggling with it. Because
yeah,
I think anyone in this world who has a desire to be a drug addict or has an alcoholism, drug, homosexuality, whatever the case is, it's a struggle. It's not good. Maybe they accept it within themselves, but it's not good. And, but that doesn't mean we hate them. You love them and you just let God do the work.
yeah,
If they're die with those feelings, they die with those feelings. But guess what? It's no different than the guy that lusts after his neighbor's wife, or the guy that stole a candy bar from
yeah.
the store, or the
Or
guy that
how about
lies
this one?
constantly.
The guy that sits in his couch every night and overeats and lusts for food.
Yeah,
Like, you know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
I mean, yeah,
There, to me, my understanding and interpretation of this, and I could be wrong,
sure.
whatever. I'm just reading what Jesus said, man. And what Jesus said is that you're to love your neighbor as you love yourself and love your father with all your heart. This is a golden rule. So if someone's gay or someone's an alcoholic or someone's a liar, you should still love them like you love yourself. That's God's work to do in a man. You don't punish him. And I think the Christian church gets away from that with I mean, I don't I don't think tolerating the sin to a point of where you make it acceptable to where you're like, oh, we're gonna, we're the church, we're going to gay church, we're going to have gay pride. I don't think that's God's message, because it's very clear how he feels on that. But you don't need to ostracize people because of how they live their life either, because we want them to go to the kingdom regardless. I want the murderer to go to heaven. I want, this might be controversial. I hope that O.J. Simpson, before he died, told God, prayed to Jesus and asked for his forgiveness for his sins. I mean, granted, he was a despicable human being on the earth, but I don't want him to be on the other team, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We all want everybody to be on our team. So I just think, we need to be tolerant of everybody's crap and try to just love them the way that we want to. It's changed my view. And, I was pretty harsh, man, as a cop.
Yeah.
Coming from being a 10 years in Memphis police officer, how I felt about people and certain things. And man, Jesus Christ changed my heart, man. I love everybody. I've never been like homophobic or anti-gay or anything like that, but, just prejudice against certain people and the way people act and stuff like that. And man, it's gone. Like, I love them the same. I hate what they do sometimes, but it's gone, you don't want to carry that around, man. Each at your soul.
No, that's right. And we see a lot of that hate on the internet now too. Like, you can really tell there's some really hurt people out there that are struggling because the things they hate and the passion in their hate is pretty significant,
I wonder where that comes from too. Like, why do you care what somebody else does in their own personal life? It doesn't affect you to the point of where you want to go and hate them.
Yeah.
I just don't understand. Like, I would feel more sad for someone who is struggling with something that they maybe, let's say they have a knowledge of Christ and they are a Christian. They love Christ, right? But Christ ain't worked that stuff out of them yet. You know what I'm saying? Or they haven't committed 100% to what he wants for their life, right?
Yeah.
Like, you should pray for that person and love them. You shouldn't feel hate or contempt for that person because they are not doing it your way or the way you think they ought to do it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think we need to do better as Christians at that kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah. And that's why I think it all feels so escalated this day and age, is because there's so many outlets for people to have a voice. And the internet doesn't give you a chance to think about it makes it a lot easier to say something before you think, kind of thing, Elizabeth has a good comment here. She says, doesn't the Bible say it's not for you to know what's in another man's heart that is in between God and that man? And she's referencing to OJ there.
Yeah, I agree with that. I was just saying, I hope he
hope it worked
it out, man.
Yeah.
We know what not working it out can do. That's all I'm saying. That's from my interpretation of the Bible.
Right.
I just hope that he worked it out.
Well, God, I think, our purpose on earth here is to grow his kingdom, right? So, hoping for everybody to be on his side is a good thing.
Yeah.
But I don't know about OJ.
I mean, it's OJ, man. I remember that car chase, dude. I mean, what was that? Like 94, 90? Man, a lot happened in the early 90s, crazy stuff. But I remember watching that on TV. You might have just been born, Josh.
I was born in 91.
91? Yeah, I think you were just a baby. I remember watching that on TV.
I've seen the video many times, but no, I don't remember that happening.
Yeah, him and old AC Al Cowling or whatever driving him around in that white Ford Bronco. I wonder what Bronco sales did after that.
I don't know.
They went up or down.
Yeah. That new Bronco's sharp looking, though. I like it.
Yeah, they're cool looking, man. They're nice.
Yeah,
Elizabeth remembers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
everybody remembers. Wow. That was old enough too back then.
Man, it's crazy when you see that stuff on TV and like real live, and you go, "Wow, that happened." I'm sure we'll have stuff like our kids will have stuff like, or your kids. I don't have any.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm sure this COVID stuff that went on, that'll all be, there'll be clips of remembrance from that. We just aren't far enough away from it yet to, see it.
They'll be like, you know what they'll be saying? They'll be like, Tiger King's out of jail. I remember during COVID with Tiger King. Save COVID. Save 2020. Like he's finally out of jail. What is he, like 87? You know?
I hope that's all it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe doing pretty good. That's all it is. If Tiger King is the main controversy that happens in their young lives.
I guess, man. That's they're hooked.
That was an entertaining show, though.
Yeah, it was funny. Free Tiger King, man. I think he got set up. I'm on Team Tiger King, man. Exotic Joe. I'm on Team Exotic Joe.
If nothing else, there was a bunch of good memes that come out of that series.
Oh yeah, yeah, it was great.
One of them not farms, whatever those. What do you call them? Zoos or whatever.
Yeah, the cat.
They're just down the road here.
Really?
Yeah, they just closed down now.
Y'all can have those in Indiana though. You can have like high fence places, right? Y'all still have those?
Yeah, well, I know we can deer high fences.
Yeah, I knew that. I knew they're pretty liberal on some of that stuff, and it makes sense if they got them there.
Well, that one got closed down, I'm pretty sure.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. Shortly after that Tiger King thing came out, I think a lot of that stuff got doinked.
Yeah, yeah.
Anytime that stuff gets brought to like the public's eye in that big of a manner, it typically don't go very well for those companies, or those facilities.
No,
because I don't know.
Didn't one of them have their arm ripped off by tigers?
I don't know, dude.
One girl had her arm like like a nub, and she was like his main. And I'm doing it like I've got a nub. I'm like, yeah, she had a nub. More tiger. She's like, yeah, I just love them. I love being around. I was like, no. If a tiger ripped my arm off, I'm done.
Yeah. I'd like to rewatch that again. I haven't watched it since it came out. I watched it whenever it was real popular.
Yes, the Elizabeth Siegfried and Roy debacle.
Yeah. What was that?
Remember he got bit and almost died, like ripped his
throat.
Yeah.
Which one was it?
Was it Siegfried or Roy?
That's Roy. That's a circus act, right?
Yeah. They've been around forever, man. I mean, since I was like a kid, they were talked about.
Yeah,
I can't remember which one.
As soon as you mentioned the tiger, I remembered it then.
Yeah, on stage.
Yeah,
I saw a video today on Instagram, or no, it was on the Weather Channel. Like they'll have videos like news.
Watching the Weather Channel?
Yeah, man. I'm trying to figure out what day I need to go to Missouri to hunt.
Oh, okay, gotcha. You
can
get that stuff on your phone, right?
Yeah, it was. Well, I know, but it was just on there, and I looked at it. These dummies. There were 2 baby bears in trees, like low to the ground, and these dummies grabbed them to take selfies with them. One of them got bit, like baby bear cubs. It's like if that mama was around, y'all are dead. The whole family wiped out off the face of the earth. Like dummies.
That's not smart at all.
No.
Did you ever watch that video of I don't know, tigers remind me of this, but of Mike Tyson beating that kid up on the airplane?
Yes.
Okay.
Like, why would you do that to Mike Tyson?
I don't know. If you guys haven't seen that, Google that because it's pretty epic.
Yeah. I love Mike Tyson. I remember I watched that fight when he got knocked out by Buster Douglas too.
Oh, really?
That's telling my age there. Yeah.
And that was all before my time. All the Mike Tyson stuff. That was. Dude, I was real little.
He was ridiculous.
Yeah,
he had tigers. Do you remember? Did you know that?
Yeah, that's what reminded me of Mike Tyson. That story I was telling you.
He used to sleep with him in the bed. Like,
yeah,
no.
I heard like the amount of. I mean, this is from Tiger King, I think, but the amount of money it costs to keep a tiger is just outrageous.
I bet.
I mean, the amount of food they eat. And,
yeah, they probably do a lot of donations from people.
Yeah,
I don't know. That's a lot. They eat a lot of meat during the day. Otherwise, they bite your arm off like his keeper. Like
I wouldn't want them to be hungry around me. That's for sure.
No,
because I don't think they think too. I mean, cats are kind of brutal. I mean, cats don't care as much as like a dog or something.
Yeah.
Especially a tiger. I mean,
20 pounds of meat a day. Wow.
20 pounds of meat.
That's like a little kid.
That's like. I mean, meat wise, that'd be like eating. I don't know, 3 deer a week.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh man. Well, I don't know if we got any more comments here. I think we covered some good stuff tonight.
Yeah, it was good. I enjoyed that.
Maybe
everybody else enjoyed it.
Yeah, maybe next week we'll talk about Genesis 6, something real off the wall, something real fun to talk about.
Yeah, we do. If anybody too, I think I said this last time. Y'all got something you want us to cover that you thought would be interesting? Just take a look at it too.
I'm excited to get into things I don't know about the Bible too. Like I'm excited about that kind of thing. And it sounds like you could dig in. Like You, you haven't dug into the New Testament a lot, have you?
Or the old, yeah. I haven't. I've
The
been
old, I
in,
mean, the old,
yeah,
yeah,
the old Leviticus and what's after Leviticus and Deuteronomy are really hard reads. It's a lot of the repetition and just like, oh, it's terrible. But
yeah. Like you need the cliff notes for.
yeah, like I talked to my friend who's a youth pastor, and he's like, "Man, don't even try to start. You know, don't even go there. Just stop and go to the New Testament." So I know the New Testament pretty well. I'm not going to say I mean, nowhere near an expert, but I know a lot about it. The old, I've got really good memory, so I can kind of bring
Yeah,
things back. Genesis and Exodus, I remember that because those were really cool books. I really like Genesis and Exodus, and then I'm reading Psalms. I've read Isaiah and Jeremiah. Isaiah is really cool because you know, it's pretext to Jesus coming. It's the prophecy of Jesus Christ, you know, thousands of years before he was born. So
yeah,
it's a pretty cool book too. I think it's a necessary read after you read the New Testament. I think everyone needs to go read Isaiah. When I say Isaiah, right? I said Isaiah. Yeah, Isaiah to you know, so that they can kind of correlate the two.
yeah.
It's helpful.
All right. Thanks for getting on again tonight, dude.
Absolutely, I enjoy it, man. This is
Le-
fun.
Leave us some comments below. Um, let us know what you think. Give us some topics to talk about. Give us something to study up on to talk about on here. I think if you think some part of the Bible is interesting, I'm sure a lot of other people will. So,
There's a lot of it to cover too. So I mean, we could do this forever.
oh, it would be nonstop. That's what I keep bringing this up because I'm on a kick with 3 of 7 podcasts, but that's what he was talking about the other day. He's like, man, I've been reading the Bible for 12 years straight every day. And I still, every day I open that thing and I find something new that I haven't like thought about or
Yeah.
interpreted it differently. And so,
Do you find that sometimes it talks to you too? Like when you're going through something, sometimes you'll just read something, you're like,
yeah,
there's the answer right there. That's what I needed.
yeah. That's what First John did to me this weekend. That's why I got so like that's why I studied it for like 3 hours because I'm like, wow, man.
We were talking, you said on the last podcast about you get anxiety about things and you get,
Yeah,
worry. And this just makes you just, man, what's to worry about, man? The only
yeah,
thing you should worry about is loving God and Christ and trying to spread his kingdom. If you do those things, I think he'll take care of you,
yeah.
you know?
You ever find yourself being more aggravated at yourself the more you read the Bible?
No. And I think that's probably because of how late I became a follower, maybe
Yeah,
versus you. Because like how you and I were kind of talked about it, how you felt like at times you've taken it for granted, your faith. Um, if I'm saying that right, I think we said that last week, like how you felt like, man, I just, you know, maybe if at times, where I'm really on fire, uh, maybe because of where I'm at in life and you know, and I mean, look, I'm like anybody else. I go with ups and downs, like I share with you. Like, I haven't been opening my Bible and reading it as much in the last few months as I was before. So, like, this is what I need to keep me on track. And and I'm glad
same.
that you brought this idea up to me to do this. I think it's
Yeah,
really awesome.
yeah. I really enjoy it. Like I enjoy studying it and finding things. Like Patrick brought up First John. That's why I read this weekend because I'm like, oh, I got time. I ought to just read the Bible. And all of a sudden, I'm like, find myself studying, which is something I don't really enjoy doing, and it was good. But yeah, I find myself sometimes like being frustrated, like whenever I just get selfish or my ego gets in the way of something. I'm like, gosh, man, you know, it's like why are you so human sometimes?
Yeah.
It's like, gosh,
Well, it's
no,
like like ego, I mean, I remember when I hunted just because I loved hunting, right? And
yeah,
then social media has made it where I hunt to be competitive. And I'm like, wow, I was thinking
yeah,
about that today. I was like, why have I been doing that? Like, it's no competition. I enjoy hunting, but it's you put a lot of pressure on yourself when you look at it that way. And, it's my thing, right? I love it. I used to bodybuild. I was real competitive with how I'd looked and how I did that and disciplined. And then, as I've gotten older, I don't do that. I love to hunt. And I've always hunted since I was 6 years old with my dad. But I got to this thing where I just wanted to be the best, be the best. For what reason? Like, it's nice when I accomplish it for me. Like when I kill the deer I'm after, like that's a real thing. But like, who cares what anybody else thinks? And
right,
I think I at times I find myself doing it so that people will look at me and think like, man, he's a really good hunter. Like, I mean, I think I'm better than some and not as good as a lot, and
yeah,
So does it really matter? Is work, you know? And I'll take advice. So I'm not arrogant to think that I'm better than everyone and they need to listen to me. I just, you know, I think we get stuck in that sometimes too with this social media world we live in, and that's kind of where you just like you need to leave the world behind, man, and just like focus on what God gives you and just be happy that we get to enjoy it for while we're here, which is really short.
Yep. All right. Sweet. Thanks everybody for listening tonight. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't yet and leave a comment below. We'd
Hope we
appreciate
help,
it.
guys. Love y'all.
Yep. See ya. Have a good night.